I was just your slave, never been treated right. I just said, yes ma'am, right away, anything you want. Yes ma'am, anytime, as you wish, right away. I was just a slave.
The first movie that I remember seeing as a child is Jaws. I was 2.
My aunt took me to this movie called Grizzly. It was like one of those movies where, you know, the animal's coming after you. Like everybody's got to run from this animal. The animal's gonna kill everybody. So
I always wanted to be an actress. I said I wanted to go to UCLA, and now I'm so anti-UCLA. No, God bless UCLA.
And every time the dun 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 dun, the music would come on that telegraphed the shark, my dad would put his hands over my eyes, and I'd be like, Daddy, stop! Daddy, stop! I can't see!
And so thank God I failed miserably when I was like 19, 20, thinking I knew what I was doing, and then I went on to school. I went on to USC, and I studied theater there, and I was in so many plays at USC.
There's one scary part in that movie that is not telegraphed by the music. That's Ben Gardner popping out the boat. And so as a 2-year-old, I'm watching it. I'm totally following the story. I'm loving it. And then Ben Gardner's head pops out the boat. I was like, ah!
I think I was 6 or 7, something like that. And she was scared out of her wits, and so was I. And I don't know why we were at that movie.
And I took all sorts of classes, and I really honed in on my craft. And then, boom, you know, I think my first show was the Jamie Foxx show. And then after that, I got on Any Day Now.
And I met Steven Spielberg one time, and I told him about that experience, and he got a real kick out of it. And he was like, why did your parents take you to see Jaws at 2? It's like, well, you know, they're black people. You know, they take kids to the movies back then in the theater. Everybody had kids in the theater with you. You know, you don't have a babysitter. You're gonna sit there and you're gonna watch the movie.
There seems to be this running theme of all these black parents taking these small children to movies they shouldn't have been in.
And this whole thing started where I had an episode where I had said basically at the end of the episode that the 3 things that women should do in order to make a difference in this industry are 1, be mentors, 2, look for mentors, and 3, they should think like a man. That's kind of summarizing it.
Think and act like a man.
Think and act like a man. But it was based on comments that were made throughout the entire episode about the difference between how men and women react in various industries. So Yolanda had made a comment on some other Skype call about how she was perturbed, I guess. She took umbrage with that
issue. Yes.
Of that issue about how, and so I kind of want to start with that. So Yolanda, tell me, what was it about that comment that bothered you?
There's been things in the zeitgeist about actually even women making jokes about, well, I'm just gonna come in and act like a man, like a guy, and just do what they do because they seem to get ahead, et cetera, et cetera. So when you made your summation and said, you know, another thing that women can do to help further themselves is think and act like a man, my issue basically is, I think that by suggesting that, you're putting the onus on the people who are not in the wrong. Basically, you're saying, and I don't take issue with the fact that I believe that women have a responsibility to hold the people they're dealing with accountable, to be equitable in their relationship with them. But I feel like it's unfortunate to suggest to a woman that she should be other than herself in order to get ahead. And maybe the answer is men walk into a room and have a certain amount of confidence, a certain amount of expectation, a certain amount of, balls or whatever you want to call it. that women unfortunately do not bring into the room. And so I think the answer is to teach females from a young age to have that kind of disposition, because we are not inherently male in the way we act, and we shouldn't be. The guys should be guys, women should be women, but women should have that amount of confidence and expectation so that they're demanding the things that men demand, as opposed to acting like a man.
Right, but I think when I said act like a man, act like a man, it was like, it wasn't to go around and, like, you know, scratch yourself and anything like. It was about some of the things that were established in that episode was like how men always either expect to get the job, or men kind of carry themselves in a certain way, or men will have, like you said, a certain level of confidence, despite the fact that maybe they don't even necessarily have the talent to back it up. Whereas a woman may have all the talent, but she'll be more demure or whatnot. And so it was about having that kind of attitude. I guess that aspect of it is like what I meant by like think and act like a man. And is there, I guess what I'm asking then, what is wrong with that, I guess?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And which will sort of lead us into your what is wrong with that.
And don't feel timid about coming at me if you disagree. You probably won't.
Thank these women.
So my question for you. So happy to be here. Don't give me, by the way. No, and truly, the fact that you are actually having this panel and this discussion, you know, and that was sort of sparked by this, you know, by Yolanda's response to that that summation says a lot, because what was going through my head, and I confess I did not listen to that episode, but I'm thinking the things that were going through my head as you were explaining that were what, like, part of what I would take issue with, just in general, whether it was you or someone else, when I hear a man going, let me mansplain to you what I think you need to do to get ahead. And because the idea of like be a mentor and choose mentors, that's great advice for a lot of people. So yes, check and check. But that idea, and I don't know if you had a guest on that podcast or not, but
I was on that one.
Okay, so fantastic. But that idea of doing this summation that's like, here's what I, who am not a member of this class that we're talking about that's disenfranchised in this way. Here's what I, who am not a member of that class, think that you, people who are, here's what I think you should do. That always sends off for me like a, you know, so there's that. As opposed to what you're doing right now, which is fantastic, which is turning to people who are in that group and saying, people who are a part of that group, what do you think people who are part of that group need to do? So that, you know, so that's...
I hear what you're saying. And so I kind of think the episode was that, because it wasn't me saying like, this is my advice to how women should get ahead in the industry. It was me trying to actually summarize what all the women in that episode had said.
Okay.
So
in his defense, there was a woman who actually said, well, I should just act like, I'm gonna start acting like a guy, or like women need to act like guys.
I have to say that this is true though, because
well, what is true when you say this is true?
That the form of communication in a corporate world, including filmmaking, is male. It's like a male bias. There's a male bias of communication. I'm an editor, and the editor that groomed me actually told me as he was training me, and he said, I'm going to say this jokingly, but I mean it. We have tight deadlines. I have some bad news for you tonight. We're going to be here real late. I want you to act like a man. I don't want you to cry. I want you to take it like a man would take it. And I laughed because he said it in a good-hearted way, but he said there's a difference between how girls take things and how boys take things. My mom had a rule that we couldn't watch TV. Although I was really obedient, I used to always break the rules and sneak into her bedroom to watch movies.
Some of my first memorable movie experiences as a kid that really stuck. One of them is E.T.
It's hard for me to remember my very first movie, but I will tell you the first movie that had major impact on me was probably E.T.
But there was one day when I happened to be watching a black and white movie, and my mom said, why are you watching a black and white movie rather than color? And I said, because black and white's prettier. And then my mom said, you can watch TV as much as you want, as long as it's black and white movies and Shirley Temple musicals.
I remember very clearly, just being so fully immersed and enraptured and caught up by not only just the story of the movie, but just
that kind of, I think I first became aware that movies could have that effect. Like I remember starting to kind of process like the effect this film is having on me.
It was such a well-crafted story with an independent child that I could identify with, who went on an amazing adventure and learned so much about herself and the world in the process.
But what I was just saying about like watching E.T. and starting to realize like the power that film has to affect people.
And my mom didn't like movie theaters, so I begged her to go to the movie theater with my sisters because it just sounded great. I remember looking up because I expected to see the ship coming from behind me, but that was just inspiring. I've also had an associate editor who came to me and said, the way we're communicating is no good. When I ask you a question, it's yes or no, because a guy would answer me yes or no. You give me answers. I don't want an explanation. Is it yes or no? So I actually had to write a Post-it and leave it at my computer that said answer yes or no, because he said, if you want, when I ask you a question, I'll come up and I'll remind you, remember, I want a yes or no. And I said, that would be humiliating. So I work often with men.
Wow.
I often work with men.
Wow.
And you didn't slash his tires?
Or him?
Right.
There's a level of, because when you're working with men, there is a level, can you act like a big girl or not? Can you play with the big boys or do you have to go home? Because if I don't act like a big boy, I get sent home. I don't get the next job.
Here's the problem that I have with that. A decent man never would have done that.
I agree.
So that's a man acting like a child. So I'd be like,
I agree.
well, you know what? Tell you what, when you can come and talk to me like an adult,
I agree.
we can have a conversation, because I don't talk to children that way.
I had a huge problem. We stopped talking for a while, although I kept working. You know, you can't drop your ethics and your work mentality. But I had to finish the show, you know, in order to continue at the studio, I had to finish the show. I don't ever want to work with him again. And I said, you're asking me to change my personality. I am not a man. I am a woman, and I'm proud of it. And so my form of communication differs from you, but I will try, as he's my superior, I will try to meet your standards, but I won't be successful 100% because I am a girl. And my bias is female communication. And so...
And I'm sorry, but
it's
who
not
made
even
your
a bias,
standards,
it's inherent.
Right, and who made your
And
standards the standards?
Yeah.
This is
but I will say, but I also then
then
had a female producer who called me on the phone, and she was from another studio. And she said she liked my work, and she knew I'm still an assistant editor. And she said to me, I want to tell you something. You're more valuable than you think. And I go, what do you mean? And she said, when I interview girls, they often take the first offer I offer them. What they don't know is that I have 2 offers hidden under the paperwork that I can negotiate up toward, but I have to give them my lowest. And she said, 95% of the time, the women come in and they say, thank you, I'm so grateful for the job. And the men come in and they negotiate hard for the higher pay. Now, she said, it's quite often the case that the women that I'm interviewing, I want more, they're more valuable to me. But she said, I want to throttle them, and I want to tell them, you are worth more than I'm offering. Don't take that first offer. Who is teaching you this? Why aren't you more aggressive in the workplace? But she says, we always get the women for less money.
Yep.
Because women are afraid to lose.
They're afraid to lose.
And then you start lower, and then you stay lower, because that's where you start, and then...
But on the flip side of that, I'd say you're constantly negotiating the point to be aggressive to get your point across, but also be understanding and nurturing and kind in the way women are sort of expected to be in order to make a connection. Because oftentimes, if we are to act like a man and be more aggressive, we are then automatically put in the, oh, that's a bitch. I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't want to deal with her.
Once you start acting like a man, you're penalized for acting like a man.
And I don't want to work with her. And
especially
you
if
might,
you're a black woman.
Oh yes, and you might be more qualified, but suddenly then the other person not just takes offense, but then they become insecure about themselves. Like, ooh, this is not a place where I expected to receive this person, and so then therefore I'm going to cut them loose before you even had a chance.
I think one of the things, though, that Christine mentioned a minute ago that is still, because it is still true in so many, whether it's different segments of the business, that the male default, the male bias of communication, all of that is still so in place, even though, and I'm sure we'll get back to this in a bunch of ways, even though there are women in high positions all over the industry, there's still just a default toward communication that is male-centered. It's still a male-centric way of conducting business. So there's that constant battle to fight, even on a subconscious level, with how women just communicate differently. So that's the thing. It's like, so you can, we're choosing our battles just moment to moment, day to day. So yeah, you can tell your superior, you can tell your boss, you're acting like a child and I'm not going to communicate with you, but how much do you want your job? So there's always those, always those battles to choose. And that's what's, I think, interesting about navigating where we are right now. I think about that a lot.
What I feel is ironic is I've been complimented about how I don't bring emotion to the table in the workplace. And that was when I was in my early 20s, and I was just being myself. I wasn't actually trying to be like a man. But when I heard that compliment more than once, I realized that that's what some men want. They don't want women to be themselves and to share their thoughts and concerns and to be nurturing and caring. And I find that to be really unfortunate, because I also think that's what's wrong with the world. It's not just an entertainment-related issue, it's a world issue. And if we were more caring about each other and the people who worked with us, then the world would be a better place. So I think it's a much bigger issue. Yes, we need to address it within our industry, but it's something that needs to be addressed worldwide.
Stay tuned for scenes from the next video episode, as well as a special offer. If you've enjoyed this conversation, then be sure to listen to the Radio Film School podcast miniseries, where we interview a wider selection of both men and women and cover a wider range of topics. You can find all of the Breaking the Glass audio and video episodes at daredreamer.fm/breakingtheglass. Breaking the Glass is made possible by Videobox, a subscription service to license premium HD and 4K stock footage from a massive library. Sign up for a free 7-day trial, then get their year plan for only $99. Just visit videobox.com/RFS. This series is also brought to you by Song Freedom, when you need high-quality music from every genre. It's also your best source to legally license mainstream music for use in weddings, events, personal projects, churches, and nonprofits. Go to songfreedom.com/radio to unlock a free license worth $30.
The studio was giving everybody a pay cut, and I fought it. He closed the door and he said, "I don't understand. Aren't you just supplemental income for your family? Why would you want to make more money?"
Whoa.
I was the only income.
Who are these people you're working with?